Welcome to Leadership Bites with myself, your host, Guy Bloom. This is a leadership podcast where I have conversations with colleagues, I chat with guests, and sometimes there'll be just me talking. You can connect with me at livingbrave.com, and when you enjoy the episode, subscribe and please tell everyone. Craig, fantastic to have you on this episode of Leadership Bites. Welcome.
No worries, I appreciate the invite. Thank you.
Well, I'm super pleased to have you on here. I saw you on another podcast and I was listening, and I just liked the way that you landed and your thinking and just the way that you were coherently just sort of talking through certain topics. So I clearly know who you are, but Craig, it would just be great to give a sense of who Craig Harrison is, just for those that may not have come across you before.
Yeah, well, Craig Harrison's all about, he held the world record for the longest sniper kill in Afghan. I killed 2 Taliban from a mile and a half away, which held the record, and served 23 years in the British Army and 16 years as a frontline sniper, completing 10 tours. And that's what Craig Harrison's about.
Boom. That's a good starting point, isn't it? That's like, I remember once listening to a conversation between 2 gentlemen in a pub, and one of them sort of said, what do you do? And he said, I'm a sales manager. And the other one said, what do you? He says, well, I'm a Harrier jump jet pilot. And I thought, yeah, that kind of, there's not a lot for the other bloke to give after that, really. Because, one sounds awesome and one doesn't.
I'll get the drinks in.
Exactly. So listen, let's. I almost want to start with that, maybe to get it out the way, to move into some of the other topics that we spoke about just before we started. But there's a book out called The Longest Kill, and it clearly is about that experience and about the things that that came out of that. And maybe that would be great to give a sense of what was the starting point for you that moved you maybe even into the military? What were those stepping stones from, do you know what, Guy, I was born in this kind of place and space, and these were the stepping stones that led me into the military, and maybe we just do that first.
Yeah, well, the reason I joined the military is to become a farrier, because I've been riding horses since I was a child. My upbringing as a child was really good. I was really privileged to have horses, and my family were all Air Force, so they've been in the military sort of physically. My granddad, my mum, my dad. I don't really know my dad that well, but I knew he was in the RAF. My mum they were both dog handlers. And I remember my granddad always said to me, get a trade. You need something to fall back on, because I knew I was going to join the army at 10 years old. My mum said, you're going to join the army, because there's nothing around here for people, because I was born and bred in Cheltenham. There's nothing around there. And she didn't want me to be a bum on the streets and just doing a dead-end job. So she sort of steered me to the military. My brother joined first. He joined the King Street Royal Horse Artillery because he's a year older than me. And then I joined, directly after him, joining the Household Cavalry to become a farrier. And that was I didn't have a plan B. My plan A was, I'm going to join the Household Cavalry, I'm going to become a farrier. And that was it. I joined when I was 16, so I had no insight in my life what civilian life was really about. So I think it's the best age to join the military, because they wipe everything off you, and then you sort of like, they create you where they want to create you. If I joined when I was in my 20s, then I'll probably have a bit of an attitude, because I knew what civilian life's all about, and you can't really speak to me like this, So 16 is a good age, and that's why I joined the house. That's why I joined the Household Cavalry.
And can you choose? Can you say at that point, I'm only joining if I can be a farrier?
Not really.
I didn't think so.
I went to the Army Careers Office, and they said, what do you want to do? People say, I want to be the powers, or I want to be an engineer, I want to do this. And I said, I want to join the Household Cavalry. And I did the bar test, and I was high enough to become entry level to the Household Cavalry. Luckily, because I'm dyslexic, and the number one as well. I can't remember the number one. I get numbers back to front and upside down and God knows what. So I was very surprised that my barb test that I did, entering, I got the Household Cavalry, which I was over the moon with. Like I said, I didn't have a plan B. So I was on the road for my plan A to become, the house. And don't get me wrong, I was a bit naive really, because I thought I'm going to be a farrier. But if your face don't fit, you're not going to be on that role, and I learnt that at an early age, if your face didn't fit. And when I joined the Household Cavalry and I got to the regiment and I got to Knightsbridge, my face didn't fit into the forge because it was in the early 90s, and the farriers there were big blokes, handlebar tashes, smashing metal around, shoeing horses. And because I did suffer from dyslexia, when they set me homework to do, I was doing more illustration work than written work, and it really wasn't good enough for them. So I did a bit of apprenticeship in the forge, but then you go down to Melton Mowbray near Leicester, and that's where the veterinary school is, and that's where you do your level 3 farrier course. But I never made it that far, so my plan A was just shattered, and I didn't know what to do. I was just in a bit of a slump.
And how old were you at that point? If you joined at 16,
I got to the regiment when I was 17 in riding school, and then you do riding school in Windsor, and then from Windsor you go do it's called state kit stuff in Knightsbridge. So I passed out probably when I was coming up to my 18th birthday. So I got to the regiment, actually working in the regiment when I was about 18, yeah.
So you had no plan B.
No.
So what happened when plan A went sideways?
I went AWOL and joined the Foreign Legion.
Of course you did.
Yeah, that's the first thing you do, isn't it? Yeah. So, and I've always been a country boy. So I've always been a loner, and I've always been a country boy, because going back to my childhood once again, doing horses at 4:00 in the morning, going to school, coming back, finish off doing the horses that I was doing. I never had a social life, so I didn't experience life as in having money, getting drunk like you do when you're younger, or staying out late or anything, because I had commitments at home, and I didn't really want to let my mum down either, because she was so thoughtful of getting me horses at a younger age. I didn't want to let her down. So you think of me, I'm 17 years old, coming up to 18, never been drunk, never been in a fight in my life, and I get a month's wage and I'm in London. Gee, weekend millionaire, and I was going down a rabbit hole I didn't want to go down, like fighting, drinking, everything really. And it wasn't me. And I put myself in check, and I thought, this is not me. So, yeah, I fucked off and joined the Foreign Legion.
And that was pre-internet, I presume.
That was what's, yeah.
So how does one, now, everything's, done in that way. How did you just get on a plane and go, right?
No, I got a ferry. I went to Dover, got a ferry over to Calais. Calais, I went to Paris on the outskirts, went to a police station and said, look, I want to join the Foreign Legion. And they said, okay. They fucked me off first of all, but I came back again. I said, look, I want to join the Legion. I'm serious. So I stayed there for 2 weeks in this police station, because I was the only person, and the Foreign Legion do not come around and pick you up if there's one person. It's not worth their while. If there was a few of you doing it at the police station, luckily more people came in and said, look, I want to do this, I want to do this. So the Legion then came round and picked us up. But within that 2 weeks of being in the prison, in the police station, I was sleeping in the cell, and I was sweeping old folks' homes in a boiler suit, until the Legion came around and picked us up, and then we went off to their training camp.
And so you're about 18-ish,
yeah.
At this point, obviously fluent in French.
No, not at all. Not a clue.
And what's that? Again, I want to be careful. There's so much here. But what does that do to a young man? You're in a different place, in a different language. Something's not worked. You've turned you've gone down a different avenue, and then you're into something which by reputation is a tough space.
Yeah, I've read a lot about the Legion, obviously before the internet and stuff like that, but read so much about it, and yeah, and it seemed to be what I wanted to do because I didn't have a plan B, but maybe that was my plan B to do that, and then not understanding, they do break into English for you to understand, but when somebody's shouting at you and pointing their finger, you get the gist where to go, and then I did fitness tests, I did exams, stuff like that, and you have an interview through Interpol, and I said that I was AWOL from the British Army, I was truthful, but they didn't accept people, because years and years ago they accepted murderers. I think Second World War, I think a whole battalion of German soldiers went over, didn't they, and they don't accept people that are AWOL no more, so, and they said, look, we don't accept you, and I was there for 2 weeks, and they kicked me out, so I ended up back in Dover, thinking, fuck, there goes my plan B. Have I got a plan C? I don't know. So I managed to get the train, got all the way back to Knightsbridge, London, handed myself in, and I did 14 days in the Nick there, and soldier on basically. So when I finished there, the sergeant major called me in the office and he said, look, what do you want to do? We can't have you doing this. And I told him the truth. I said, look, my plan was to be a farrier. It didn't work out. So they sent me to Windsor. Now my regiment split into two. You've got the ceremonial side and you've got the armoured side, the reconnaissance side. And I thought, yeah, I'll give that a go. And do you know what? I excelled. Fucking excelled. I never got in any drama, never got in any trouble or anything. I just excelled from what I was doing, and I think being out of London was the best thing that happened to me, really. And I think that was my plan C. So when everyone asked me, I've got a plan, I said, make sure you got an A, a B and a C, definitely, But yeah, and that's when my snipering career started, and that's when my tour started, and that's when everything started,
So culturally, when you walk into a space like that, you're still a relatively young man. I mean, we all think we're adults when we're that age, and then now when we look back, we realise that we were children. It's that kind of thing. What was the environment that took you in? Was it that you just excelled because it was your natural space, or were the people there that actually, if you think back, you go, those were the mentors, those were the people that brought me forward? What created the place and the space for you excelling?
I think the field craft, the being on exercise, living off the wagon, stuff that I fucking enjoyed. I enjoyed doing, and getting paid for it. What more could you ask for if you enjoy what you do and get paid for it? And yeah, the sergeants were so good, strict, they're old school. But yeah, if you fuck up, you wear it. But if you don't, and it's nice to have your sergeants to say first name terms. When you fuck up, you call him sergeant, whatever his name is. And it's good like that because you need the trust. The troop needs to be trusted, and you need to have that camaraderie. You need to have that bond, that family sort of ethos, especially when you go on tour as well. You need to trust each other. You need to have somebody watching your six all the time, as well as your front, and that's what it comes.
What makes a sergeant so? I mean, you always hear the sergeant, and what makes them so critical or so good at their role? Is it? I think the experience. Yeah. Is it what is it about them?
I think they've done tours before. They've done tours. They started off as a trooper, so they've gone through Lance Corporal to Corporal to Sergeant. They've gone through the rank and they've experienced. So you need to listen to them for their experience. Don't get me wrong, you get some right muppet sergeants, and you think, God, I'm following this fucking idiot. But the majority of the time, you get some really good blokes, and they sort of guide you in the way they want to mould you, really. And I think they're strict on you because they want the best out of you. And because they want the best out of you, because when you go on tour, you've got to excel on tour. You've got to be the best on tour as well, and you can't let your guard down at no minute at all. And if you've got second thoughts or anything like that, you need to get them out of your head. And the sergeants do that for you, as well as their leadership ability. They're good for companionship. They're good for personal reasons. You can talk to them, and loads of stuff that a sergeant needs to be good at. Not just fighting, not just his skills and drills, but other stuff, being compassionate and stuff like that. That makes a good sergeant.
So they're part trainer, part counsellor, part mentor, part coach, part friend. I'm not your friend, but we can have a friendly conversation.
Exactly.
They're wearing many hats at any one point.
Yeah, no, and I've seen lads fuck up before, and the sergeant goes, "Come on, let's have a quick word." Where things, instead of bawling and shouting at them, because that doesn't work, talk to them. And that's what I used to do. And goes, "Look, mate, where's it going wrong? Where's it going wrong?" And if he says, "I'm having dramas at home," and then you said, "Well, I'll give you 3 days off. Go and sort your admin out. Go and sort yourself out. And that's up to you to be a good sergeant." And I like to think that I was a good sergeant because I had that. I'd learned from other sergeants, and I had that camaraderie. I had that respect. I had that leadership ability to go, fuck it. When I'm in a firefight, I'm going to lead this firefight. I'm going to run into it. And the lads you want behind you as well,
And when was that first time that somebody went, "I think you should have a go in that sniper space," or you seeing it and wanting to volunteer to go?
I think when you finish a tour, you do career courses. You have to do career courses all the time to get promoted, education, English, maths and stuff like that. And I remember when I finished my one of my tours and I said I want to become a sniper. And they said there's no room for snipers in the Household Cavalry. And I went, "But I want to become a sniper." "No, there's no room, there's nothing in the Household Cavalry saying you become a sniper." So, and then they asked me again, and I kept hounding it all the time, And then finally they allowed snipers in the reconnaissance role. And when I asked again, they said, "Yeah, okay, yeah, we'll put you on your snipers course." So I didn't get picked. It was me badgering them, because I saw a sniper on tour when I was in Iraq, and his professionality, his skills, his drills were so second to none. And I thought, this is what I want to do. And he got treated like an adult as well. And this is what I wanted to be.
Can I ask what was the attraction? Because there's a big selection of stuff that you can do in life and in the military, and farrier's one thing, and then what was that made you go, "It's that"?
That's a hard one. I think just the professionality. You have to be an A1 soldier to become a sniper, and everything has to be tip top. And I believed I was that, and I just wanted to prove myself. Really, I want to excel in myself and my drills. And I think the next step from sniping would be special forces. I think they're on the same par sort of thing as getting treated like an adult. Because when you're in the army, don't get me wrong, you do some really bone stuff. You do some really boring stuff, and you think, "What the fuck am I doing this for?" But when you become an asset to a battle group, you get more better roles. You get treated better, and I think that attracted me to it as well as being a sneaky bastard in a ghillie suit. Yeah.
There's a credibility thing going on there. There's a craft. There's something that says, I've actually taken this to a different level.
Yeah. I knew I was at a younger age. I knew my field craft and stuff like that was up there, and maybe I just wanted to prove myself to give me that edge.
Now, I'm about to say something, but I'm going to say it very carefully because I recognise who I'm talking to, which is, so I've done the proverbial, I do martial arts, I've done some firearms training, when I'm in countries where I can do it. So I won't, I'm safe on a range and I won't shoot my foot off and, that kind of stuff. But I would never at any one point say, I'm anything. I'd look fantastic to somebody that didn't know what they were doing, but clearly incompetent to somebody who was an expert. So I know exactly where I am. But what I do know is that when you say the drills and understanding that when you first pick up a firearm and you've got over the anxiety of doing so, and then you become confident with it. I remember turning up once and seeing a guy put a rifle in my hand, and he said, right, what I want you to do, I want you to walk forward shooting at the target, a little metal thing at the end of the range. And off I trotted, and I didn't hit it once. Now, if I was still, I could hit it. But the second I started moving, the bloody thing was all over the place. And I never forget this guy going, right, let me just show you something. And he was doing it because I was probably a little bit above myself, and he just wanted to let me know. And he shot down the range like a goddamn gazelle. Bang, 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 bang. Everyone just going ping, 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 ping. And at that point I went, oh, okay, I get it. There's always another level. There's always a level of expertise. And I'm sure he looked to people as well and went, yeah, but compared to this fella, I'm nothing. I mean, we've always got levels. But I do recognise that there is a craft. But when I look at sniper, wind, distance, trajectory, I mean, I know it still exists with any firearm, but it's a completely different level of appreciation and almost science. So just... could you really? I mean, most people could imagine shooting a gun where it's just over there, but when you need a set of binoculars to see the bloody target, give us a sense of that difference and what's really involved that would set a sniper apart from somebody picking up a rifle and shooting it down range.
So basically, when the bullet leaves the rifle, it lays quite flat. So if you're shooting a rifle at 300 yards, 200 yards, 100 yards, that bullet stays flat. So it will hit the target. So when I was in Afghanistan and Iraq, I had 12 clicks on my scope because I knew that was 300. So I can gauge targets from 100 to 300 without even changing my scope. It's called quick reaction. So you're up there, bang, bang. Longer distance, then you have to start thinking about the wind. You have to start thinking about barometric pressure, altitudes, if it's cold or if it's hot, if it's raining, stuff like this. And you're going to have to put that into respective onto your scope, and you have data. So you spend ages on the range shooting from 100 to 1,000 yards, and you keep doing that. And you're gathering live time data that you write down in a little book. And then that turns into DOPE. DOPE stands for date of previous engagements. Okay, so you keep all that into a little notebook. So when you engage in a target and you say, hang on a minute, I shot somebody at 600 yards the other day, look at your DOPE and you think, okay, I'm there, click, 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 straight in there and you're firing. Over 1,000 yards, it depends where you are in the world, the Coriolis effect of the world will take relevant of that bullet. So the world will spin right and your bullet will go right anyway due to the rifling in the barrel. So when it comes out the barrel, it will spin right but lay flat. And so you have to put more left clickage on to bring that bullet straight on target. So when I said about the bullet laying quite flat, 300 yards, the highest point of that bullet will be 3/4 of the distance that you're firing. So if I fired at 1,000 yards, the highest point of that bullet will be at 700 yards before it starts dropping. So I need to know that as well, And people always think the bullet flies straight anyway. It doesn't, it arches. And the highest point of that bullet is called the culmination point. That's the highest point of that bullet. And like I said, it's always 3/4 of the distance that you're trying to fire. So yeah, having the information, it's not the fact of getting behind a rifle and shooting. So when you said you shot that rifle and you were going down range, going ding 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 ding, was that your first attempt? Yeah. So
No, well, my first attempt was missing.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So if you did that over and over and over and over and over and over again, you will start hitting that target.
And that's what started to happen.
Yeah, exactly. So it's practice, and snipering's a perishable art. You know, if you don't keep on top of it, you'll lose that foresight, the skills and drills. You know, so you got to keep on it all the time. Don't get me wrong. I could teach you long range shooting in a day, and you'll be hitting targets from 1,500 yards to 100 meters away. It's the snipering phase, being sneaky. That's the hardest phase, you know, and that's what people fail on the most.
Is it? So there's so much here with a beer and a curry. I'm sure these are the conversations that could go on all weekend. So I saw a film, and I should, if I knew what it was, it would be more impressive. But it's the one where the I don't know, a couple of officers with their binoculars are looking at some bush at sniper school, and the target's going ding, and they've got somebody in the bush looking for the sniper. And then eventually they give up and they go, right, stand up. And he stands up, and he literally stands up 3 meters in front of them. And they go, how did you get there?
Yeah, I've seen that.
Being a sneaky bastard, sir, or something along those lines. Now, I'm cinema. But what's the sneaky element? What is that says that's the bit? Because I would have, being a layman, I'd have gone, I thought that'd be the opposite. The sneaking about would be quite easy. It'd be the shooting that would be the difficult bit. So explain that to me, Craig.
It's having a good front drop. So what I mean by front drop, so plenty of camouflage in front of you, and in depth. So if you ever take the shot, either in a building or in a wood, always be in depth, because it's hard to break through the blackness of the wood to see you.
And is that the equivalent of not sticking your rifle out of a window?
Yeah, totally wrong. Totally wrong. Yeah,
being inside
exactly. And you have and so when you do the sniping phase, you have a walker, and you have them guys sitting on a truck looking out for you, but you'll have a briefing prior to say you're not allowed more than 400 yards from these spotters, and you're not allowed to take the shots no less than 1,000 yards away. So from 1,000 yards to 400, I've got clear range where I can be, you know. And you got to think, you got to change your camouflage. So if you're going through bracken and it's lush green, and you start going through gorse bush, you need to change your camouflage, or you're going to stick out, you know. Stay low. Go slow, stay low and go slow. And there's a saying that they say veg is the edge. So vegetation is the edge, not Hessian sacks. You people look like a Wookiee. That's the wrong thing to do. More vegetation you have on you, the less chances you getting caught. But then you got to think, if you're in a field for a certain amount of time, like 48 hours, your foliage will start wilting after 24 hours. So you need to change that as well. So you've got to be on top of your skills and drills constantly, you know. And it's hard. Don't get me wrong. We call it pinged. I've been pinged loads of times where I've just gone, I made a stupid mistake there. Yeah, I'm sticking out like a dog's dick here. Yeah, do you know what I mean? So, but like I said, like you, when you were firing that rifle, you got better and better and better at it. Being snipering, you get better and better and better and better at it, you know, because you're learning from your mistakes. And you're learning your skills and drills are getting better.
Is there a relationship with... No, let me phrase that differently. What's the relationship with being comfortable in your own skin and being a good sniper? That, because you're not in a troop, there's not the immediate camaraderie. So there's something I don't want to sound like somebody's trying to be an expert when I'm clearly clueless. But there's something about stillness and being present with yourself and being comfortable alone, yes, but also just with your own thoughts and still being able to concentrate and just talk to me about that.
I like my own company. So when I was a child, I was a loner. When I was in the military, I had colleagues and associates and friends, But at the end of the day, if I walked down the road and stopped and looked around, I was on my own. So being a sniper is excellent for me because I get lost in my own thoughts, and I think that if you're comfortable in your own skin, like you just said, and you trust yourself, you will excel in what you do. But you need to have that confidence in yourself. And I think I had that confidence, because I was a loner, because I liked being alone. I was used to laying there for days on end in my own company, which it didn't really bother me really. And having I think having a good family behind you as well, like having my wife's fantastic and she supported me fantastically, and having that clear in your mind and you've got no worries at home will also make you a better soldier as well. But you stop worrying about things. I've got to do this, I've got to do that. When I go home, instead of concentrating on what you're doing, things are going to go wrong and you're going to make stupid mistakes.
Is there a process for focus? I mean, you're talking about it with a sense of natural characteristics for yourself, but is there also a process, an algorithm, I guess, for that?
I don't think there is, really. I just think you need to have it in yourself to become a decent sniper on the ground, What I used to do, I used to get my laptop, I used to put it in the corridor where we were training, and it was like a good 10-metre corridor, and I used to put my laptop at the bottom, and then I used to go to the other end, and I used to look through my sniper scope and watch a film, and then it's a film that I knew, so I knew what was going on, but I'd just sit there for 2 hours watching this film and putting my crosshairs on each actor like that, yep, and doing slow drills, like opening the bolt and closing it as slow as I can. And then I used to put like a 50p on the end of the barrel. So if I knock that 50p off, I'm being too erratic with my bolt and stuff like that. And that adds to my focus as well, because I'm laying there doing dry drills. And that's the idea, drills. And that's what they hammer into you in sniper school.
There's also something there about it being not something you go and do, but something that you are.
Yeah. I think it's weird because when I got selected, I didn't get really, so I'll rephrase that. I didn't get selected because there was no one in my regiment to select me because we had no snipers. So I couldn't have a pre-course or beat up, we call it, to go down to Purbright to do my sniper training. So I tipped up there with my bag of clothes and uniform, and that's it. Everyone had ghillie suits, rifles, obs boards, sticks, binoculars, laser finders, wind meters. I had fuck all. I just tipped up there thinking it would get issued me when I'm down there, But luckily there was a Coldstream guard, nice bloke, and he had loads of spare kit, and he gave me all the kit. And it was 9.5 weeks, the sniper course was. And what I used to do in the weekends off is go home, back to camp, and I didn't see my wife. I say, right, I'm in the tailor shop, and I used to be in the tailor shop making the ghillie suit more better for me, making my trousers more comfortable with knee pads on and stuff like that. So yeah, I always try to excel in what I do in courses. I put 110% effort, and I don't deny that at all.
But that's what I'm hearing there is that there's the adaptability, but there's something about I'm not leaving this to chance.
No. If I go on a stalk and my ghillie suit's snagging all the time, that weekend I'll go back and rectify them snagging faults. If my knees are sore, I'm going, why is my knees sore all the time? Not enough padding. I'll rectify that fault, and that's what it's all about.
So this is reflection, this is craft, this is seeing it as not just a job that I'm doing, but this is what I'm about.
Yeah, sniping's all not about killing. People think you're a sniper, you're out there killing people, you're an assassin, I've been called all sorts. It's not that. The first role of a sniper is to gather lifetime information of the battlefield, and that's how it's written. Lifetime information of the battlefield. Once you got that information and there's targets to be taken out, that is your second objective, to take targets out, you know. But being sneaky, getting in there, getting as much information as possible, that's what you're doing. And if you're good at being sneaky, I'm 6'4". People looked at me and go, how's he going to hide? Believe me, I could get into the littlest places if I needed to, you know.
You're not here, are you, by any chance?
Oh, what?
You're not in next door, are you? In my house, and I just
no.
don't know it.
No.
That'll be the next thing when you walk in through the door, and I'm going to go, okay, I have a heart attack. So, and I see, you know, heaven forbid I'm on, you know, I spend too much time on social media, but I do see, you know, people like to make comparisons. You know, our military, the best military. So how does that training, because I hear quite a lot about US Marine snipers, and what's that? Is it, yeah, we're pretty well as good as each other? I mean, there might be somebody that's particularly excellent, but, or is it, no, there is a significant difference? Or what are your thoughts on that comparison with other places and spaces?
I think our Marines, our Royal Marines, are the best sniper squad in the world, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Quantico Marine Base, we do the scout snipers down there. They have more trigger time because they've got the resources and the money to put loads of ammunition, update their weapon systems, give more these scopes, these night systems and everything. But in England, we don't have that. You know, there's cutbacks all the time, isn't there? And we just have to make do in what we do. And I think that's what makes us better soldiers. And I think that's what makes our SAS and SBS better soldiers, because we have to do the job in what the kit we've got, you know, and we do well at it as well.
I kind of like that. I every now and then I see a picture of somebody in South Africa and he's working out in his backyard and he's got weights made of tyres and, you know, this, that and the other. And of course what he's done is he hasn't got the kit. So he's made the kit.
Exactly.
You know, and then maybe that is something about the dry firing, the high level of repetition. That if the kit's fantastic, then maybe you're good too. But if the kit's not quite as perfect as it should be, you've got to compensate by being bloody good at your craft.
You have to, yeah. Say if it's pissing down with rain, you're getting wet, but your Gore-Tex you've got on says you're going to stay dry, but you're still getting wet, you're going to get used to it. But if it says this is 100% you're going to stay dry, and you get used to it, but then you start getting wet, you're not going to, you know.
It's interesting. I had a gentleman called Richard Deviney on, who's a ex-Navy SEAL, and he talked about the fact that when people turned up for, I think it was Buds, for selection, he said that the people that generally failed were the athletes. The people that were technically fitter and technically stronger, but when they got tired or they reached the end of their capability, they knew they were at the end of their capability and stopped. Whereas the people that maybe hadn't had the training and didn't know but were just bloody minded just kept going to the point where actually what they were doing was almost redundant, but they had the not stop. So actually that's interesting, is it? If you've not really got wet before because all the gear's right, that might be different to somebody that's continually getting wet. So when push comes to shove, it's not about the shop, it's what I'm used to, and it's what I've become acquainted with.
Exactly.
And it's those kind of things. Fascinating. Yeah. So that time it's called, the book's called The Longest Kill. You know, the longest shot, whatever it is. What turned that day into something out of the ordinary?
What do you mean by that? Just
I mean, did you set out knowing that you were going to do a particular shot, or did it just presented itself and there you were?
I saved 12 people that day. My own boys who were in the shit, I saved them. And if I didn't do that shot or them shots, I doubt nearly all my boys wouldn't be here now. You know, they were in a bad situation. And I made a command decision on the ground, you know, even if to get their heads down, the Taliban heads down, but I ended up shooting them. So I didn't go out to go right, because when I lasered it with my laser binos, I just had 4 red lines on, so I knew I was at my maximum range, because my weaponry goes 1,500 yards, So I had to
And the shot was how far?
2,475 yards, just over a mile
So
and a half.
so theoretically, you knew that you were at the edge of your capability. Had you ever pushed it that far before
No,
in training,
no,
or
never. There's no. I don't think there's any capability in England to go that far, to be honest with you, unless you go to America in the desert. I think there's some ranges that can go up to 1,500 to 2Ks, but nothing that can go a mile and a half, unless you're on a tank range, you know.
and what's the travel time? How is it?
6 seconds.
Because I see. I didn't know you were going to say 6 seconds, but when I've done my poultry attempts at, I'm going bang ping. It's absolutely immediate. And if you count off 6 seconds and you just went 1, 2, 3, 4, it's a hell of a long time.
Yeah, and don't forget, people are getting shot at. I'm getting shot at, and I have to wait for that bullet to fly through the air to hit contact. Because there's 3 stages to a bullet. There's supersonic when it comes out, and that's when you hear it go ting straight away. Then it goes transonic when it's unstable in the air, and then it goes subsonic when it slows down, when it sorts itself out. And so there's 3 stages to that bullet flying through the air, especially long range as well. It will go transonic.
And the caliber of this, because we often see these big 50 cal monster weapons that they have. What's the caliber of the weapon you were firing at the time?
A 338 Lapua, which is about the thickness of probably your index finger, bullet wise. Probably as long as your little index finger actually. So it's a hefty round. So it goes up to 408 or 3, and there's another one, the 3, and then it goes up to 50. So there's quite a vast, and considering mine it goes at 1,500 yards, it just shows you the power of that weapon. 50 cal can go 4Ks plus. If you've got a good optics and good scope on that rifle, you can go 4Ks plus. And I think they do a challenge called the 2 Mile King in Texas, where you have to hit a target over 2 miles and you have to hit it with a 50 cal. So only a few.
And are you generally not walking around with one of those because they're monsters?
Yeah, they are monsters. And I think when I was on tour, the engineers were using them to take out IEDs, and SF were using them as well to take out vehicles, engine blocks and stuff like that. But if you're a quick reaction force or QRF, or you're doing a lot of tasks on the ground, you need to be light and you need to be mobile. So the weapon I had was up to that standard.
So talk to me about walking in a bullet. What does that mean? Yeah, have I got the right phrase there? Bracketing, thank you.
Yeah, basically when I took my shot, there was a guy in a compound and he was that mile and a half away. It wasn't him I was trying to kill, but he was orchestrating the attack, what was going on, what I could see. So what I'd done, I fired my first round just to see what I put on max. I put it on 15 magnification, because if you put it on full magnification, your crosshairs will wobble and you won't get a perfect sight picture. So I put it on 15. So I fired just to see where it would land, and it hit a compound wall. So I lifted it up, fired again, lifted it up, fired again, and it took me 9 shots to get there and hit the compound wall. And the Dickel scouts who I was shooting at disappeared. His head was down, and we have ICOM, which is a radio which is tuned into the Taliban, and the interpreter's got one, and they were talking, and I said, what are they saying? And he was saying, that he's getting shot at from somewhere and you can no longer direct the attack. So now the Taliban in this village, which I could look down at, were running headless because they had no one orchestrating the attack, And then in the afternoon, I think the attack started at about 11:30. It finished about 2, and I think about 1:30ish it was. My lads started getting engaged, and I checked all the targets where I engaged and destroyed the targets, and I couldn't find anyone shooting back. And the only place I didn't check is where I fired early on in that morning. I looked up and I saw two guys laying down firing a PKM belt-fed machine gun. So I fired my first shot, missed, fired my second shot, and the guy stood up and I hit him and he fell down. And then as I fired my third shot, I waited 3 seconds and then I moved my rifle across and fired my fourth shot. So I've got two bullets either side of each other, 3 seconds apart. Third one missed, fourth one hit him. Yeah,
So you had two bullets in flight at the same time.
I just thinking off my feet there, and I thought I need to do something. It's taking too long, so that's what I did. Yeah.
Incredible. So, talk to me, and when I've spoken to people with military experience, there's different reactions to this question, but I imagine that what is easy for one person to deal with is harder for somebody else, just in the context of what you see, how you feel about certain things, and being in high stress situations where you're fearing for your life or other people's lives, and just some of the visuals that you come across. Because I know mental health for veterans is a key thing for you. So what does, I don't want to ask the question, what does war do to people, but almost what's your experience of how people join the military? They come from different places and spaces, and as much as the environment can be a place of nurture and a place of security, they're having then experiences which puts the human mind and body under pressure. So what do you kind of, when you're doing work with veterans, which I know is important to you, I guess I'd just like to understand the impact that you've seen and how you're trying to add value.
See, people join the army to make a career. And I tell people now, if they ever join the army, get a trade. Like my granddad, join the engineers, join the REME, make the army work for you. Don't work for the army. And get them to pay for all your courses and everything. And then once your time's up, or you've done the full 22, or you want to do 10 or 15 years, get out and you've got a trade like a mechanic, bricklayer, carpenter, plumber. You've got something to fall back on where you become self-employed. And some people join the army because they want to go to fucking war. They want that hunger. But I've had lads like that, and I've seen lads like that. And until they're in a situation where they're getting shot at, where lads are getting killed or blown up, or people are getting maimed or frags, they changes people. And war changes you. War massively changes you. And you can't think of it when you're out there, because you're moving 1,000 miles an hour doing ops from ops, and a bit of downtime, then a bit of ops and a bit of downtime. You haven't got time to think, this is what I've done. I think the only time you start thinking of it is not even when you go back to, when the tour's finished and you go back to England. It's when you leave the army and everything slows down to a snail's pace, because civilians don't work as hard or as fast as the army does. And then you start thinking, fuck, yeah, I've done that. I've killed that person. I've done this, I've done that. And then you start feeling regret. You start feeling guilty. Your depression, you isolate yourself more. And that's when you have flashbacks, cold sweats, anxiety, and you don't know what's happening to you, really. And like for me, for instance, I didn't know if there's anything wrong with me. My wife noticed it first, and then the army noticed it, because when I was going on exercise and other squadrons were playing the enemy, I was still in Afghan, I was still in Iraq, and I was taking it to the extreme. Cable tying and blindfolded them. Getting them in the back of the wagon, I wasn't nice at all. And because I was still there. And the army noticed it, they set me off for evaluation into Aldershot, DMH. And then the MO called me in the office. He said, look, you're done. And that's exactly what he said, you're done. He said, what's going to happen now? And they told me what was going to happen. And that's what happens to a lot of veterans. And I'm glad I've got the support at home than I did, because some veterans don't have that. Their family, their wives leave them because they can't cope with their PTSD. So they start drinking, they start taking drugs, they lose everything, they become homeless, you know. So I think if you've got a strong family background, then you become to cope with it much better. But if you haven't got that family background, that support, you know, people are going to fucking struggle. And I've seen it, you know. And I tell people all the time, if you've got no one to talk to fucking me. Because, and I say this over and again to people, no one understands PTSD except a person who's got PTSD. And I can then talk to them and I can relate to them thinking, mate, I felt like that. And this is how I cope. And it's, you know, oh yeah, I do that. And this is how I cope. I'm on a lot of drugs. And I always say medication is not the answer. But if it puts you on that even keel where you can process the day, and I always say take it day by day. If you can make your life easier by medication, by that day, you know, you're halfway there. You know, it's not the answer, but it does fucking help, you know.
And I want to talk about the bushcraft school in a moment. Before I do, what should be done differently?
I reckon,
and that might be
massively.
pre and post.
Massively. I reckon that all veterans that are leaving the army should get monitored for 2 years after leaving the army for health reasons. And I think when they get monitored for that 2 years, I think the homelessness, I think suicide rates, alcoholic abuse and drug abuse would go down a lot, because the army's living up to their ethos, or I'm trying to think what it's called now, or their code of conduct, or whatever they call it. But yeah, I reckon that they should have monitored 2 years after leaving the army to make sure everything's fine. And they're, you know, because they've given their all. They've given their all to the army. I gave everything. It was always the army first, wife second, you know, always. You know, and she says that to me, and I apologise. You know, you don't realise you're doing that at the time because you're just following orders. You know, but I think exactly. And I met my wife in the army. I understand if I met her, then joined. You know, I think it'd be a different scenario. But I think I was married to the army before I married her, sort of thing. But yeah, like I said, monitored 2 years. And everything would and go down. And I think the government need to do more, not just donate these money that they do to these big charities. Big charities, what I'm not going to mention because they're fucking useless to veterans. And then they wipe their hands and said, yeah, but we've given this to this charity, this to this charity. It's not that. It's the small charities, you know, that are doing the best that they can, not these big charities. They've gone corporate. They're just more worried about money they're giving in. Money that they have to pay the accountants, the directors and stuff like that. So 1p that you donate to a charity, sorry, £1, 1p goes to where it's meant to be going. The rest is gets sucked up on administration. And it's fucking awful. Absolutely shocking.
Is there a decompression leading up to leaving the military? So if you've been in a decade or 2 decades or whatever it is, and they know, listen, you've been in for 20-something years, right, in your last year, do they do like a decompression that leads in, or is it almost you finish on a Friday and, you know?
No, you have, they put you on gardening leave. You do 22 years colour service, they put you on gardening leave. And then you do like your resettlement. So if you've done a certain amount of years, they say what job you want to do. I want to be a HGV driver. So they take you for all the licenses to become a HGV driver. But you have to qualify by doing a certain amount of years. And if you don't qualify, you don't get it. So if I only done 10 years and I signed off and I was getting out tomorrow, that's me gone. I'm out the gate, hand the kit in, I'm gone. There's no decompression at all. But yeah, if I did a full 22-year colour service, you get a thing called gratuity, which you get a lump sum like 30 or grand to say thank you very much. And then you get your resettlement as well. Yeah, so there's a slight difference if you're doing a full colour service to if you've done 9 to 10 years. So yeah, no, so there's no decompression at all.
So talk to me about bushcraft school, because I know that's a passion for you, and it'd be great just to hear what that is, what it's doing, and just, I guess, why you're so focused on it.
So I started it 2 years ago, and I'm in the process of now turning my school into a charity. And I've got to wait 40 days, so I'll find out in September if I've been accepted. Not the fact that I want people to come down for free, not the fact that I want to make an earning off it, because I fucking don't. Everything that I earn from now, from two years going on now, from the survival school, every bit of money that I've been given has always gone back into the school to buy equipment, to buy tents, buy knives and everything. I've not made a living off it at all. And I thought to myself, I want to give something back to veterans. I want to give something so they can have a decompression, like you said, a bit of getaway, somewhere they can go and just be blokes, and women. The women are on the course as well, and they come down, and we do basic bushcraft, fire lighting, tracking, foraging, flint napping, make weapons. We just sit there around an open fire and we just talk shit, and we tip up Friday in the evening and they leave on the Sunday. And do you know what? Everyone that I've taken for the last 2 years, I'm still in contact with now. And sometimes they say, Craig, I want to come down. Yeah, come down. And they just sit there. They've already done the course, so they just sit in an open fire. The fact is they just want to get away from life for a bit because it gets too much. And that's what the Maverick School's all about, And when Ross comes down and talks to them as well, because he helps them do a bit of counselling, it's fantastic. It works well. It really works well. And I'm very passionate about it. Like this weekend, I've just done a full week's work, and this weekend I've got 6 people coming down, So tomorrow evening I'll go down in the woods, set up, and then, we'll have a good weekend of doing bushcraft and making them learn new skills. And if they don't go away learning new skills, we go away as friends. And they go away different people. And Ross always gives them a different mindset as well. So they go away with different mindset, saying, I was going to kill myself last week, but I'm not going to now because I've got this on my doorstep. And this will help me. And I've helped a lot of veterans. And that's what the school's all about.
That's very powerful. Thank you. There should be some sort of documentary made about it, really, like it feels like there's a Netflix documentary sitting there waiting.
Well, Guy, between me and you never know what's in the pipeline.
Boom. Okay. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, listen. One last thing for me then to ask before I kind of bring us to a close. I recognise that every single one of these things is at least a 3-day conversation, so I've just tried to sort of hit a few topics as we go. I'm in a different space where I work with leaders and people in management roles, but it comes with its own level of stress. I think these things are all contextual, and I see people who suffer from stress, and maybe not PTSD. There's this thing called complex PTSD, which is whereas the PTSD very often is the big trauma that's really affected people, and then maybe the more traumas of that level you've had, the deeper it is. But this complex PTSD is this almost a continual barrage of small things that over a period of time, could be a decade, nothing seems that big a deal, but when you add it all up, it really gets people. And I see this, I think, to a greater or lesser degree. So I'm just really interested in, if you are talking to people about just call it their mental health, call it their dealing with stress. Just I came across a phrase in a book the other day called anti-fragile. Resilience is where you bounce back, but anti-fragile is where you don't let it hurt you in the first place. And I quite like that. I like both elements of that. How would you, if somebody said, how do I not get hurt by the stuff that's happening to me? How do I not allow these things to maybe they can affect me, but I don't want them to infect me. How would you reply to that?
No one's invincible. Everyone's got issues. And mental health these days has got bigger and bigger, especially in the corporate world, because the stress levels, anxiety, because they're all trying to better themselves, But what I tell people is take every day as it comes. Every day. Just take today. Just do today. That's all you got to do. And if you think that in your mind, that all I've got to do is today, next day will come, all right? But I'll challenge that when it comes. And what I do, I get up at 3:30 every morning and I'll go to the gym. When my feet hit the floor, I say to myself, I'm committed. I'm committed to the day. Not what's going to happen next week down the line. Not the fact I'm going to go on holiday. Not the fact that I've got to do a lecture or this or this. I've got to cope with today. And that's made me a better person, that I'm just coping with the stresses of today, and I'm committed to today. And when I close my eyes at night and I wake up the next morning, I say exactly the same. I'm committed for the day. I don't really plan ahead, and don't get me wrong, I've got things planned ahead, but until that day comes, like this podcast, I think, well, I've got a podcast today and that's what I'm going to do. I didn't stress about it because I'm just taking today as it comes. And that's what I suggest to people. Just take every day as it comes. Don't let things beat you down. Because if you let it beat you down, they won. The stress has won.
So this is something about staying connected to the moment.
Yes.
And not letting the future be your present.
No. Take every day as it comes. That's all I can say. And that you become a better person because you're dealing with them challenges. And if that challenge still goes into the next day, take it. Say, right, I'm going to take today as well. And that's what you do. And that's what I do.
Lovely. Craig, I'm going to bring us to a close with a heavy heart, but I'll stay on and talk to you for a few minutes afterwards, just to make sure everything loads up. But if people wanted to reach out, make contact, to see what might be going on in your world, where do they go to? I've
got an Instagram. It's COH Craig Harrison on my Instagram. I do a few posts on there, talk about mental health and all that. I'll talk about how to cope and encouragement, or just go on to my webpage, which is the Maverick Survival School .com, and it's a .co. Well, it's Maverick Survival School.
I'll put the link. I'll put the link in as well.
And then there's a link at the bottom. You can email me. So if you have any dramas or anything, or you want to come down to the course, I do let people know that I'm fully booked this year. Fully booked. All right. So if I do book you on, it'll be on for next year. But I will answer every single messages. Me and my wife, we sit down and we sort it. And I don't ignore anyone. So if anyone wants to talk random times at night, just give me a call.
Thank you, sir. I've enjoyed this. I've enjoyed you. I think you've got a sense of clarity and a sense of reality that is held well. So I appreciate that, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
That's it. So I hope you enjoyed the episode. Please share so others get to hear about us, and subscribe so you keep up to date on new episodes. Also visit livingbrave.com if you want to connect with me and find out more about executive coaching, team effectiveness and changing culture. Oh, and of course you can buy my book Living Brave Leadership on Amazon. So on that note, see you soon.